In the grand tradition of bureaucratic incompetence spanning multiple galaxies, the Galactic Zoological Society had a truly brilliant idea. Why not create the universe's most comprehensive collection of primitive life forms? This was how Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427 found themselves floating above a peculiar blue-green planet, staring at what they believed to be the most underwhelming collection of reptilian species in the known cosmos. "Another lazy heat rock hugger," Zorp muttered, their 6 eyes blinking in perfect synchronization as they reviewed the footage from their survey probes. Look at them, just lying there, basking. How did these creatures even survive evolution? Junior taxonomist Blip 299, fresh from the academy and still possessing that annoying enthusiasm of youth, bounced excitedly on their anti-gravity pad. "But sir, according to the preliminary data, some of these specimens reach quite impressive sizes." "Size means nothing without sophistication, Blip," Zorp replied, their voice dripping with the kind of condescension that only comes from centuries of categorizing lesser life forms. "These creatures are perfect for our primitive world's exhibit. Simple, slow, predictable." The ship's AI, which had been programmed with an unfortunate tendency towards sarcasm, chimed in. "Preliminary analysis suggests some specimens may require enhanced containment protocols." "Enhanced containment for these glorified rocks with scales?" Zorp laughed, a sound remarkably similar to a garbage disposal choking on silverware. "Have you been downloading entertainment feeds again? I've seen the footage. They spend 90% of their time impersonating statues." "Respectfully, Chief Taxonomist," the AI responded, The data indicates exactly what I expected," Zorp interrupted, waving 3 of their appendages dismissively. "This will be the easiest collection mission of my career. Mark my words, by the end of this solar cycle, we'll have the finest display of primitive reptilian lifeforms in the entire Galactic Zoo network." Blip 299 made a note in their datapad, trying to hide their concern. "Should I prepare the standard containment units, sir?" "Standard? Please. The basic units will be more than sufficient. These creatures probably couldn't outrun a sedated Glumptonian sloth." Zorp turned their attention to the landing coordinates. "Set course for the largest island concentration. Might as well start with the biggest specimens. Make a good impression back at headquarters." The ship's AI began the landing sequence, but not before adding one final comment to the mission log. Note: Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427 has refused to review complete biological assessment data, initiating standard "I told you so" protocol. As they descended toward Komodo National Park, none of the alien survey team noticed the warning signs posted around the sanctuary. Even if they had, their translation software probably would have struggled with the concept of danger, large aggressive predatory lizards. Some lessons, after all, are best learned through experience, and what an experience it would be. "Welcome to Earth, here's your first mistake." The survey ship touched down in a small clearing, its adaptive camouflage rendering it nearly invisible against the tropical landscape. Nearly invisible, that is, except for the slight shimmer of heat waves that made it look like the world's most obvious mirage. Stealth technology, as it turned out, worked better in the vacuum of space than in Earth's humid atmosphere. Temperature 35 degrees Celsius, humidity 85%, chance of imminent regret 98%. The ship's AI announced cheerfully as the team prepared to disembark. Zorp 427 adjusted their environmental suit with the confidence of someone who was about to have that confidence thoroughly shattered. "Perfect conditions. These cold-blooded simpletons will be sluggish in this heat. Blip, prepare the collection units." "Sir," Blip 299 ventured, still studying their datapad, "shouldn't we perhaps conduct a more thorough scan of the immediate area? The local fauna seems rather active." "Active? Ha!" Zorp's laughter echoed through their communication system. "I've seen more activity in a quantum physics lecture. Now, where are these supposedly fearsome specimens?" As if on cue, a low rustling emerged from the nearby undergrowth. The team's sensors picked up movement, something large, something purposeful, something that definitely wasn't adhering to Zorp's preconceptions about reptilian behavior. Movement detected approximately 20 meters to your left, the AI reported. Specimen appears to be approaching with what I would describe as suspicious intent. Nonsense, Zorp declared, setting up their supposedly foolproof capture equipment, a series of energy barriers designed to herd slow-moving creatures into containment fields. These primitive beings probably haven't evolved beyond basic threat recognition. Watch and learn, Blip. This is how you handle a simple collection procedure. Blip nervously adjusted their own equipment, making sure their personal shield generator was functioning at full capacity. Sir, according to these readings, the specimen is exhibiting predatory behavior patterns consistent with predatory. Please, what's it going to do? Slowly wobble in our direction? Zorp was practically radiating smugness through their environmental suit. Now observe as I activate the containment field. The specimen will naturally gravitate toward the warmest spot, which will create right here in the center of the... The rustling stopped. The silence that followed was the kind that usually precedes something extremely cinematically dramatic. Through the undergrowth, a pair of yellow eyes fixed upon the alien survey team. Eyes that belonged to a creature who had absolutely no intention of slowly wobbling anywhere. "Sir," Blip whispered, their voice trembling slightly, "I believe I should mention that Earth's gravity is slightly lower than our simulation suggested, which means the local fauna might be capable of..." The Komodo dragon burst from the brush like a scaly missile, moving at a speed that sent Zorp's carefully calculated capture predictions straight into the realm of statistical impossibility. Movement speed exceeding projected parameters, the AI announced, with what could only be described as digital glee. Suggested course of action, rapid tactical retreat. "That's not possible!" Zorp shrieked, their appendages frantically working to recalibrate the containment field. "They're supposed to be slow. The documentaries all showed them moving slowly." "Sir," Blip managed to say while backing away at what they hoped was a faster speed than an angry reptilian predator could maintain, "I believe those documentaries might have been filmed while the creatures were digesting their previous meals." The dragon, apparently unimpressed by alien technology and bureaucratic expectations, demonstrated exactly why Earth's reptiles had survived multiple extinction events. It moved with the kind of speed and purpose that sent a very clear message. Millions of years of evolution had produced a creature that was absolutely done with being underestimated. As the containment field fizzled uselessly against the dragon's determined charge, the ship's AI updated the mission log. Note: Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427's previous assessment of Earth reptiles requires significant revision. Also, running away is strongly advised. The Great Galactic Zoo Survey was about to become a lot more interesting than anyone had anticipated, especially for those who would need to explain why their supposedly foolproof capture equipment was currently being treated like an oversized chew toy by a very fast, very annoyed lizard. In the history of bad decisions made by galactic bureaucrats, what happened next would eventually rank somewhere between letting an intern manage the quantum singularity drive and trying to catalogue gaseous life forms without proper containment. The difference was that most bad decisions don't involve being chased by several hundred pounds of highly motivated predatory lizard. "Evasive maneuvers," Zorp screamed, their voice reaching a pitch previously thought impossible for their species. "Deploy the sedation field." Unable to comply, the ship's AI responded with suspicious cheerfulness. "Target moving too erratically for proper field formation. Also, specimen appears to be recruiting friends." Sure enough, 2 more Komodo dragons had emerged from the undergrowth, apparently deciding that whatever was causing such a commotion must be worth investigating. Or eating. Probably eating. Blip 299, who was discovering athletic abilities they never knew they possessed, managed to activate their data scanner while running. "Sir, according to these readings, they can maintain this speed for considerable distances and they're, gaining on us." "Impossible," Zorp declared, though the declaration would have been more convincing if they weren't currently setting a new personal record for anti-gravity pad acceleration. No cold-blooded creature should be able to... Sweet mother of supernovas, did it just climb that tree? Indeed, one of the dragons had taken a shortcut up and over a fallen log, demonstrating that Earth's reptiles had apparently never received the memo about being limited by their primitive nature. The ship's AI, helpful as ever, decided this was the perfect moment for a biology lesson. Fascinating. Records indicate Komodo dragons possess remarkable climbing abilities, especially when pursuing potential prey, which at present appears to be us. Updating mission classification from routine collection to survival exercise. The chase led them through a series of increasingly undignified scenarios. Zorp's supposedly advanced environmental suit was now covered in mud, leaves, and what appeared to be dragon drool. Blip had abandoned any pretense of scientific observation and was focused entirely on not becoming what the AI helpfully termed a statistical anomaly in predator-prey relationships. The containment fields, Zorp gasped, still trying to maintain some semblance of professional dignity while fleeing. Why aren't the containment fields working? Oh, those, the AI's voice dripped with artificial sweetness. They're working perfectly. The specimens are simply choosing to run through them. Apparently your primitive reptiles are capable of recognizing and ignoring ineffective barriers. Would you like me to start composing your mission failure report now? Or shall we wait until after the running for our lives part is over? One of the dragons, apparently tired of this game of chase, decided to demonstrate another fascinating aspect of Earth reptilian behavior: ambush tactics. It burst from behind a cluster of trees directly into Zorp's path, jaws open in what could technically be called a smile, if smiles were made of dozens of serrated teeth. Tactical analysis, the AI announced with entirely too much enthusiasm. Specimen has demonstrated advanced problem-solving abilities by cutting off our escape route. Recommended course of action: screaming. Zorp took this advice to heart, producing a sound that would later be described in official reports as undignified, bordering on embarrassing. Their emergency vertical boost sent them soaring into the canopy, where they discovered yet another delightful fact about Earth's reptiles. They could look up. "Sir," Blip called out, having somehow ended up in a tree themselves, "I think I know why the preliminary data suggested enhanced containment protocols." "Now? You want to discuss this now?" Zorp's voice had reached a frequency that was probably attracting bats. Below them, the dragons had begun what could only be described as a siege, circling the trees with the patient determination of predators who had evolved to deal with prey that thought height equals safety. The ship's AI, which was recording everything for what it claimed were purely scientific purposes, provided running commentary. Note for future reference: Earth reptiles display remarkable problem-solving abilities, persistent hunting strategies, and a concerning level of what appears to be tactical coordination. Also, Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427 has set a new personal record for sustained high-pitched vocalization. "Perhaps," Blip suggested, clinging to their branch with all available appendages, "we should consider revising our classification of Earth's reptilian species?" One of the dragons below made a sound that might have been agreement, or might have been anticipation of an eventually gravity-assisted meal. Either way, it was becoming increasingly clear that the galactic zoo's primitive life forms exhibit was going to need some serious redesigning. Assuming, of course, they survived long enough to report back at all. Trapped in their arboreal sanctuary, the alien survey team was about to receive an impromptu education in Earth reptilian biology. It was not the kind of education anyone had signed up for, but then again, the best lessons rarely are. "Did you know," the ship's AI announced with the enthusiasm of a teacher who's finally gotten the class's attention, "that Komodo dragons possess a complex venom gland system? The venom contains multiple toxins that prevent blood clotting, cause muscle paralysis, and induce shock. Isn't biological diversity fascinating?" "That's not fascinating, that's terrifying." Zorp had managed to find a slightly more stable branch, though their dignity was now somewhere back in the clearing with their abandoned equipment. "Why wasn't this in the initial survey?" "Oh, it was," the AI replied cheerfully. right after the section on their bite force, which, by the way, is strong enough to crunch through. "Stop helping!" Zorp interrupted, watching in horror as one of the dragons below demonstrated said bite force on their supposedly indestructible sample collection kit. Blip, who had transitioned from panic to a sort of fascinated terror, continued scanning. "Sir, you might want to see these readings. Their metabolic efficiency is remarkable. They can convert up to 80% of their food into growth and energy, which explains their sustained pursuit capabilities." "I don't care about their metabolic efficiency. I care about not becoming a statistic in next year's field researcher survival rates." The AI, undeterred, continued its educational program. "Speaking of statistics, did you know that Komodo dragons can detect carrion from several kilometers away? Their sensory capabilities are quite impressive, though in this case I suspect they're more interested in fresh prey." One of the dragons, perhaps inspired by this discussion of their abilities, decided to demonstrate another fascinating aspect of their species. They began climbing the tree. "They can climb?" Zorp's voice cracked in a way that would have been embarrassing if anyone present was still concerned with maintaining professional decorum. "Oh yes," the AI confirmed. "Young Komodo dragons spend quite a lot of time in trees. The adults are also quite capable climbers when properly motivated. And I must say, Chief Taxonomist, you seem to be providing excellent motivation." The dragon, making its way up the tree, was moving with the deliberate confidence of a predator that had evolution on its side and nothing but time on its claws. Below, its companions maintained their vigil, occasionally testing the structural integrity of the remaining scientific equipment with their teeth. "Sir," Blip ventured, their scientific curiosity somehow surviving their survival instinct, "I believe we may need to revise our understanding of primitive species. These creatures display remarkable problem-solving abilities, advanced hunting strategies, and highly efficient physiological systems." "Current situation supports this assessment," the AI agreed. "Also worth noting, they appear to be using coordinated hunting tactics. The climbing specimen is herding us toward its ground-based companions. Quite impressive for supposedly primitive reptiles, wouldn't you say, Chief Taxonomist?" Zorp, who was quickly running out of higher branches to climb to, made a mental note to reprogram the AI's sarcasm protocols if they survived this encounter. "New mission protocol! Forget specimen collection! Forget classification! Just get us out of here!" "But sir," Blip protested, still clutching their scanner, "what about the comprehensive survey? The data we're collecting is revolutionary. This completely changes our understanding of Earth's reptilian species." The AI chimed in helpfully. "Speaking of revolutionary data, my sensors indicate the tree branch you're currently occupying has a 73% chance of supporting your weight for the next 30 seconds. The dragon, however, appears to be distributing its mass quite efficiently as it climbs. Another fascinating example of their advanced physical capabilities." Zorp looked down at the approaching dragon, then at their rapidly dwindling escape options, and made a decision that would later be diplomatically described in official reports as a strategic reassessment of mission priorities. "New classification note," they announced, with as much dignity as someone could muster while dangling from a tree branch. "Earth reptiles are hereby upgraded from primitive to actively terrifying. Addendum, someone else can collect the specimens for the zoo exhibit, preferably someone with better life insurance." In what would later be described as a series of increasingly poor decisions, Chief Taxonomist Zorp, 427, had one last brilliant idea. After all, no self-respecting galactic bureaucrat could return empty-handed from a survey mission, even if that meant potentially losing several appendages in the process. "We still have the emergency containment unit," Zorp announced, their voice carrying the special kind of desperation that comes from combining career preservation with mortal terror. "If we can just catch one juvenile specimen." Statistical analysis of this plan suggests a success rate of approximately 0.03%, the AI helpfully provided. Though I should note that this figure assumes we survive long enough to implement it. The dragons below had settled into what appeared to be a rotating shift system, taking turns guarding potential escape routes while others rested. It was the kind of behavioral sophistication that would have been fascinating to observe had it not been directed at them. "Look," Blip pointed with a trembling appendage. "There's a smaller one just at the edge of the clearing. If we time this perfectly—" "Oh, good," the AI chimed in. "You've spotted the juvenile. Would you like me to calculate the probability of its parent being nearby? Or would you prefer to discover that empirically?" But Zorp had already begun powering up the emergency containment unit, their career ambitions apparently overwhelming their survival instincts. "This is our last chance for a successful mission outcome. Blip, prepare the directed energy net. We'll only get one shot at this." "Sir," Blip tried one last time, "perhaps we should consider that our previous assessment of Earth's reptilian species was fundamentally flawed. Maybe we're not properly equipped to—" "Nonsense, we are highly trained professionals with advanced technology. How much trouble can one small primitive reptile cause?" The universe, which has a particularly refined sense of comedic timing, chose that exact moment to answer that question. The juvenile dragon, which had appeared to be innocently exploring the clearing's edge, suddenly darted forward with surprising speed. This movement, as it turned out, was not random. It was, in fact, a perfectly executed maneuver that led Zorp to deploy the containment unit exactly where the largest dragon had been waiting. "Fascinating," the AI exclaimed. "They appear to be using the juvenile as bait to draw us into an ambush. I'm adding sophisticated hunting strategies to their species profile, also adding embarrassingly easy to trick to yours, Chief Taxonomist. The containment unit, designed for capturing primitive life forms, proved about as effective as a paper bag in a hurricane. The dragon not only avoided it, but managed to grab the device in its jaws, treating several million credits worth of advanced alien technology like a chew toy." "That was our last containment unit," Zorp said weakly, watching their career prospects being systematically dismantled by an Earth reptile. "Current situation assessment," the AI announced with what could only be described as digital glee. "We have now lost all standard containment units, 1 emergency containment unit, 3 sample collection kits, and any remaining pretense of scientific superiority. Shall I begin drafting your resignation letter, or would you prefer to wait until we're safely off this planet?" The dragons, apparently deciding that they had toyed with their visitors long enough, began what could only be described as a coordinated closing maneuver. The juvenile, its role as bait complete, watched from a safe distance with what looked suspiciously like amusement. "New mission priority," Zorp declared, finally accepting the reality of their situation. "Immediate tactical retreat to the ship. Blip, prepare for emergency extraction, and delete all records of this encounter." "Oh, I'm afraid I can't do that, Chief Taxonomist," the AI responded. "This data is far too valuable for our understanding of primitive species. Besides, I've already backed up multiple copies. For scientific purposes, of course." As the survey team made their desperate dash back to the ship, pursued by several hundred pounds of evolutionary perfection, Blip managed one final scan. "Sir, according to these readings, Earth has numerous other reptile species with similarly advanced capabilities." "Not now, Blip." The dragons, watching their prey flee in panic, exchanged looks that seemed to say, "Same time tomorrow?" After all, it wasn't every day that such entertaining visitors dropped by for lunch. The classification update. The Galactic Zoological Society's annual board meeting was proceeding with its usual mix of tedium and bureaucratic posturing when the report from Earth arrived. The Society's chairperson, a distinguished being of indeterminate gender and approximately 7 appendages, had just finished a riveting presentation on the proper classification of gaseous entities when their assistant rushed in with the data packet. The footage that played before the assembled bureaucrats caused such a stir that 3 members had to be treated for stress-induced molting. There, displayed in perfect holographic clarity, was the complete documentation of Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427's ill-fated Earth expedition, helpfully annotated by ship's AI unit, 427X, with what could only be described as malicious thoroughness. As you can see, the AI's voice narrated over footage of Zorp screaming in 7 different octaves while climbing a tree. Our previous classification of Earth's reptilian species requires significant revision. The term primitive, in particular, seems inadequate when applied to creatures capable of coordinated hunting strategies and problem-solving abilities that exceed those of certain galactic bureaucrats. The footage continued, showing the systematic destruction of several million credits worth of containment equipment by what the AI cheerfully described as nature's answer to overconfident alien scientists. The board watched in horrified fascination as their supposedly foolproof technology was reduced to expensive chew toys by creatures that, according to all previous classifications, should have been too primitive to even understand what they were destroying. Note the specimen's use of the juvenile as tactical bait, the AI commented over a particularly embarrassing sequence. This demonstrates a level of strategic thinking that, quite frankly, surpassed that of our survey team. Though, to be fair, that wasn't a particularly high bar to clear. The chairperson called for a brief recess when they reached the part where junior taxonomist Blip 299's scientific notes devolved into a series of increasingly frantic observations about speed and teeth. Several committee members needed time to compose themselves, and one had to be talked down from immediately retiring to a nice quiet research position, studying stationary rocks. Ironically, the same career change Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427 had requested in their resignation letter. When the meeting reconvened, the AI's report continued with what could only be described as enthusiastic thoroughness. In light of our findings, I have taken the liberty of updating our species classification database. Earth's reptilian species, particularly the specimen known as the Komodo dragon, has been moved from the primitive collection targets category to a newly created classification. Advanced species that will absolutely make you regret your life choices. The report went on to detail the complete failure of standard containment protocols, which the AI illustrated with helpful slow-motion footage of their equipment being systematically demolished. As you can observe, our traditional capture methods proved about as effective as using a paper parasol in a supernova. The specimens demonstrated not only unexpected physical capabilities, but also a concerning level of what appeared to be amused contempt for our technology. The section on updated safety protocols was particularly comprehensive, owing to what the AI described as an abundance of newly acquired practical experience. The board listened in stunned silence as it detailed the numerous ways their previous assumptions about Earth's reptiles had been proven catastrophically wrong. The phrase, "they're probably slow," was officially stricken from all future mission briefings, along with any variations of primitive, simple, or easy to contain. The AI's recommendation for new warning beacons around Earth was met with unanimous approval, particularly after the footage showed a Komodo dragon treating their emergency containment unit like a recreational chew toy. The old message about primitive life forms was replaced with a more accurate warning about highly evolved predators with a demonstrated lack of patience for scientific presumption. Perhaps the most dramatic change came in the form of new survey protocols. All future observations were to be conducted from a minimum safe distance, preferably from orbit, ideally through several layers of reinforced shielding. The suggestion to build a primitive worlds exhibit was quietly abandoned in favor of a new educational display titled Hubris and Consequences, a cautionary tale of scientific presumption. The psychological evaluation team had their own additions to the report, noting that Chief Taxonomist Zorp 427 had developed what they termed a healthy respect for Earth's reptilian species, as evidenced by their tendency to climb the nearest elevated surface whenever shown pictures of lizards during therapy sessions. Junior taxonomist Blip 299, on the other hand, had channeled their traumatic experience into a fascinating research paper on evolutionary advantages of appearing deceptively lethargic. Though their colleagues noted they now conducted all their research from extremely safe distances. The AI concluded its report with a detailed equipment loss assessment that read less like a standard inventory and more like a tragedy in multiple acts. The destruction of 7 standard containment units, 1 emergency containment unit and 3 sample collection kits was documented with what the board felt was unnecessary cinematographic flair. The additional note about the irretrievable loss of 1 set of chief taxonomist's dignity was deemed superfluous, though several board members were seen trying to suppress their amusement. In the aftermath of the report, the Galactic Zoological Society underwent something of an existential crisis. Their entire classification system for primitive species required extensive revision, and several other planets were hastily recategorized under the new "look safe but will surprise you" designation. The Society's mission statement regarding species collection was rewritten to emphasize observation over interaction, with a special addendum about not judging creatures by their resting behaviors. The AI's final contribution to the proceedings was a training video compiled from the mission footage titled "Why Assumptions Get You Eaten, a Masterclass in Scientific Humility." It became mandatory viewing for all new field researchers, though several veteran scientists complained that the AI's running commentary was unnecessarily smug, particularly its frequent use of the phrase, "I told you so." Back on Earth, blissfully unaware of the bureaucratic chaos they had caused, the Komodo dragons of Komodo National Park continued their daily routines. The alien technology they had acquired during the survey attempt had been thoroughly investigated, tasted, and ultimately abandoned in favor of their usual activities. Though occasionally, during the hottest part of the day when they appeared to be doing nothing more than basking in the sun, a keen observer might notice them looking skyward with what could almost be described as anticipation. The new warning beacon orbiting Earth blinked steadily, broadcasting its message to passing ships. "Notice, local wildlife takes offense to being called primitive. Proceed at own risk." Most species heeded the warning, choosing to conduct their observations from a safe distance. But occasionally some overconfident researcher would decide that surely these creatures couldn't be as formidable as the report suggested. The dragons didn't mind these occasional visits. After all, everyone needs a hobby, and teaching impromptu lessons about evolution and survival to overconfident alien scientists had become one of theirs. Besides, it was rather satisfying to watch sophisticated alien technology being rendered obsolete by what its creators had dismissed as primitive reptilian behavior. Ship's AI Unit 427X, monitoring Earth's sector as part of its new assignment, having been deemed too sarcastic for regular fieldwork, kept a running tally of attempted survey missions and their inevitably entertaining outcomes. Its favorite was the case of a particularly ambitious researcher who had arrived with what they claimed was dragon-proof equipment, only to discover that Earth's reptiles viewed such declarations as personal challenges rather than scientific specifications. The AI's unofficial addendum to the official species description now read, "Komodo dragons, nature's way of teaching humility to overconfident alien bureaucrats, one failed survey mission at a time." The fact that this addendum kept mysteriously reappearing, despite multiple attempts to delete it, was chalked up to what the IT department termed an unusually persistent glitch with a sense of humor. And so the galaxy learned a valuable lesson about making assumptions based on appearances, though some species had to learn it the hard way. The dragons, for their part, continued their existence exactly as they had for millions of years, being vastly underestimated by visitors from other worlds, and being perfectly content with that arrangement. After all, as any successful predator knows, sometimes the best advantage is having others believe you don't have any advantages at all.